5 hit songs that were just musical accidents. What if I told you that some of the biggest hits in music history were complete accidents? That's right. Songs that topped the charts, sold millions of copies, and became cultural phenomena were never supposed to happen at all. Today, we're diving into 5 incredible stories of musical mishaps that turned into pure gold. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never listen to these songs the same way again. Song number 1. Let's start with one of the most famous accidental hits of all time. Louie Louie by the Kingsmen in 1963. This garage rock classic that launched 1,000 cover bands was born from the most ridiculous recording mistake you can imagine. The Kingsmen were a small-time band from Portland, Oregon, and they had exactly $50 to record this song. They walked into a tiny studio, and from the very first take, everything went wrong. Lead singer Jack Ely was standing too far from the microphone. The levels were all over the place, and honestly, the whole thing sounded like it was recorded underwater. But here's where it gets interesting. Ely couldn't hear himself properly through the monitors, so he was basically shouting the lyrics blindly, slurring words and missing beats. The band thought they'd completely botched it, but they were out of money and time, so they said good enough and left. When Louie Louie hit the airwaves, something magical happened. The muddy, incomprehensible vocals made people think the lyrics were dirty or contained hidden messages. The FBI actually opened an investigation that lasted 2 years, trying to decode what they thought were obscene lyrics. Spoiler alert, there weren't any. It was just bad recording quality. But that controversy made the song explode. It reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of the most covered songs in rock history. All because of a $50 recording session gone completely wrong. Song number 2. Our second accidental masterpiece takes us to 1965 and the Byrds' Mr. Tambourine Man. Now, you might know this as a Bob Dylan cover, but the accident wasn't in the songwriting. It was in how the Byrds completely transformed it by mistake. The story goes that Roger McGuinn, the Byrds' lead guitarist, heard Dylan's original version and loved it, but he misunderstood the rhythm and tempo completely. When he taught it to the band, he played it much faster and with a completely different feel than Dylan intended. Instead of the folk ballad Dylan wrote, the Byrds turned it into this jangly electric pop song. But wait, it gets better. During recording, they were having trouble with the arrangement. Jim Dixon, their producer, suggested they compress the 6-minute Dylan version into 3 minutes for radio play. So they accidentally created one of the first folk rock songs by misunderstanding the original and then chopping it up for commercial radio. The 12-string Rickenbacker guitar sound that McGuinn used became legendary, but even that was partially accidental. He was trying to emulate the sound of a sitar after hearing Ravi Shankar, but his technique created that distinctive jangle that would define the Byrds' sound and influence countless bands. Mr. Tambourine Man hit number 1 and launched the entire folk rock movement. The Beatles were so impressed they started incorporating similar sounds into their music, all because Roger McGuinn misheard a Bob Dylan song and played it wrong. Song number 3. Let's jump to 1977 for our third accident, Dancing Queen by ABBA. This disco anthem that gets every wedding dance floor moving was born from the most Swedish accident you can imagine. Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus were in the studio working on completely different songs when Benny started fooling around on the piano during a break. He was just noodling, playing random chords, when he stumbled onto that iconic opening piano riff. Björn heard it from across the room and rushed over saying, "Play that again." The problem was, Benny couldn't remember exactly what he'd played. They spent the next hour trying to recreate those few seconds of accidental genius. Finally, they got something close, but it wasn't quite the same. What they ended up with was actually better, a more polished version of the happy accident. But the accidents didn't stop there. When they were writing lyrics, they had the music but no clear direction for the words. Björn was literally just humming nonsense syllables over the track when he sang something that sounded like Dancing Queen. They looked at each other and thought, well, I guess we're writing a song about a dancing queen now. Even the famous "Digging the Dancing Queen" line was originally a placeholder lyric that they planned to change. But when they played it back, everyone in the studio started moving to the rhythm. They realized they'd accidentally captured something magical, pure joy in musical form. Dancing Queen became ABBA's only #1 hit in the United States and is still considered one of the greatest pop songs ever written, all because Benny got bored during a recording session and started hitting random piano keys. Song number 4. Our fourth accidental hit brings us to one of the most influential guitar sounds in rock history. Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix in 1967. The song that helped define psychedelic rock came from what Hendrix himself called a beautiful accident. Hendrix was in the studio working on different material when his guitar amp started malfunctioning. Instead of getting frustrated, he became fascinated by the strange, distorted sounds it was making. He started experimenting, pushing the amp to its limits, creating feedback and fuzz that most guitarists would consider mistakes. The famous opening riff of Purple Haze came from Hendrix trying to tune his guitar while the amp was acting up. That dissonant, otherworldly sound that opens the song, that was supposed to be him tuning up between takes. But his engineer was rolling tape, and when they played it back, everyone in the room knew they'd captured something revolutionary. Even the lyrics were accidental. Hendrix had been reading a science fiction story the night before recording, and phrases from the book were stuck in his head. When he needed words to go with his accidental riff, he just started singing whatever came to mind. Purple Haze all in my brain wasn't some deep artistic statement. It was literally the first thing that popped into his head. The recording technique was accidental too. The distinctive stereo panning effect that makes your head spin when you listen on headphones happened because the engineer was experimenting with the mixing board and accidentally created this swirling psychedelic effect. Purple Haze reached number 65 on the Billboard Hot 100, but more importantly, it changed rock music forever. That accidental guitar sound influenced everyone from Led Zeppelin to Nirvana. All because Jimi Hendrix's amp broke down and he decided to roll with it. Song number 5. Our final accidental masterpiece takes us to 1986 and Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer. This MTV-dominating Grammy-winning hit was born from the most unlikely accident, a technical malfunction during a completely different recording session. Gabriel was working on his album So when the sampling equipment in his studio started glitching. Instead of playing back sounds normally, it was triggering random samples at weird intervals. Most artists would have stopped the session to fix the problem, but Gabriel was intrigued by the rhythmic chaos the machine was creating. That stuttering, percussive sound that drives Sledgehammer, that was the broken sampler randomly firing off drum hits and sound effects. Gabriel started building a song around the malfunction, layering bass lines and melodies over the accidental rhythm track. But the accidents kept coming. The famous horn section that makes the song so danceable was originally supposed to be synthesizers. But when the session musicians showed up for a different song, Gabriel had them play along with his accidental backing track just to see what would happen. The result was that infectious brass arrangement that makes you want to move. Even the lyrics were somewhat accidental. Gabriel had been struggling with writer's block, trying to write something profound about relationships and connection. Frustrated, he just started singing stream of consciousness lyrics over the backing track. "You could have a steam train, and show me round your fruit cage" weren't deep metaphors. They were just random images that popped into his head. The song's success was immediate and massive. Sledgehammer hit #1 in the United States, won multiple Grammy Awards, and its innovative music video became an MTV landmark. All because Peter Gabriel's sampling equipment had a bad day, and he decided to work with it instead of against it. Conclusion. So there you have it. 5 massive hits that were never supposed to happen. From the Kingsmen's $50 disaster to Peter Gabriel's broken sampler, these songs prove that sometimes the best music comes from embracing the unexpected. The next time you're working on something creative and it goes completely wrong, remember these stories. Maybe that mistake is actually your Louie Louie moment waiting to happen. Some of the most beautiful music in history came from artists who said yes to accidents instead of no to imperfection. What other accidental hits do you know about? Drop them in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about the weird, wonderful world of music history. Until next time, keep making beautiful mistakes.